Is the EPL title race over? What was the best of MLS's opening weekend? And the United States women's national team win yet again. That and more here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello, and welcome to the show. You've made it. This is Morning Kickaround. We cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country. How you doing? Coming to you live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Glad you're all with us. How you doing, Mr. Davis?
Doing good. It was a very busy weekend. You throw 15 top-level domestic games on top of my already busy soccer schedule, and life gets a little more complicated, Rob. That's how that works.
Yeah, we are being asked to do quite the balancing act. Family guys and global football to watch.
Family. Who needs family?
I somehow navigated. Saturday was literally an all-day buffet of soccer, near and far. I loved it, and somehow I think I walked that tightrope of balance somehow. But we got a full show ahead of us. We are going to talk about territorial rights, Premier League title races may or may not be over, and Major League Soccer definitely entertained us here in a little bit of a big bonus here in February, really filling up our soccer calendars. Whew, you don't get to say anything really about your shirts. You have a big collection of soccer shirts, Jason, on the radio. They don't see them. Tell us about what you're wearing here on the show this morning on Monday.
Pulled out Minneapolis City, this shirt. This is just a big black wing on a white shirt, and it really goes hard. I'm really a big fan of this shirt. Shout out to Minneapolis City, who have built their own little community there in the Twin Cities. They've got great gear on a regular basis. Obviously, that's a team playing at a high amateur level in USL League 2, I believe, these days. And the Crows is what they're called. So you can see I'm wearing a I don't really like crows as a general rule. They're kind of bastards. They make weird noises. They can be, I don't know. There's different kinds of birds, and I'm not really a ornithologist.
Yep,
I'm not a
I
huge
love that
fan
word.
of crows as a but in terms of Minneapolis City and the shirt and everything, I mean, come on, this is just great stuff. Shout out to Minneapolis City.
Ornithologist, love that word. One of my other favorite words is also hobby related, a philatelist. You know what a philatelist is into?
Is that a stamp collector, Rob?
Very good. Your knowledge of the vocabulary of this.
I would be good on Jeopardy. Don't doubt me. I'd be good on Jeopardy. One day it'll happen.
I could see that. That'd be good. I would love to do a American Soccer's Weird, where it's where we review Jason's appearance on Jeopardy. That'd be pretty fun.
Oh man, wouldn't that be a thing? Maybe we'll do our own version of Jeopardy on Morning Kickaround one day. Maybe we can do that.
American Soccer Jeopardy?
American Soccer Jeopardy. Who's signing up right now? Let me see it in the comments. Who would play American Soccer Jeopardy? It'd be, it wouldn't just be history, but there'd be some history. We have, there'd be maybe some logo, some visual things. This team, answer this team, blah, 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 blah. Who is Minneapolis City? That would be how that works.
What if we reward the MK Ultras and the people if we get to when we get to 1,000 subscribers, or maybe another plateau beyond that, and we reward the people with America's favorite game show vis-a-vis Morning Kickaround Jeopardy style.
I've been pondering what we should do when we get to 1,000, and we are 61 people short. So if we can get 61 people to subscribe, we'll get to 1,000. So some of 61 people. Like, some of you have 60. I don't have 61 friends. I'm not that popular. But some of you have 61 friends. Tell your 61 friends to subscribe to Morning Kickaround so we can get to 1,000, and then we'll come up with something, some celebration, some bonus content, some massive thing. I do think, we don't do a great job of maybe like previewing what's coming on the show, because we're kind of like, we're still working this thing out. And so really good conversation with Peter Wilt last week. I think what we're discovering here on Morning Kickaround is that there is definitely a place in the conversation for some of this stuff about how we organize soccer, the leagues that we have, how professional soccer works, professional league standards. We're going to talk territorial rights on the show today. We have a plan for what I'm calling the soccer disruptors. We're going to talk to some people that you may know from the internet who are known to be flies in the proverbial American soccer ointment. They like to mix it up. They don't love the way we do things, and I think it would be great to have those conversations. I think we could have some very, very interesting and illuminating conversations with some people. So if you know a soccer disruptor, definitely throw the name at us. Hit us up on the Gmail account, on email. If you don't like email because you're not old like us, there's social media. You can always tag us there and let us know who we should talk to, because there are some people out there with not just interesting ideas, but people that are constantly doing the work of trying to illuminate, again, I'm going to use that word, or bring to light. Was that mean the same thing? I could be good on Jeopardy. Bring to light some of the problems we have in American soccer.
Also, with that in mind, and with the email, my morningkickaround@gmail.com, another thing that we want to build out that I think ties in with the leagues and the structuring is those towns that aren't necessarily in the MLS markets, the ones that are known for having an American soccer scene. There is cities and areas around this country, soccer districts, if you will, that we would love to shine a light on. For example, last week we talked about Richmond, Virginia, and had a great conversation about that. And we've done a couple cities now, and there's a lot more to do.
Look, okay, let me bring in this comment. This is from Neil James. I'll subscribe. I'm hoping you guys cover more than MLS. My club isn't in that league. Okay, yeah, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to talk about what we are and who we are. You know, we both of us come at this from an American soccer perspective. Now, we're going to talk about the Premier League in a minute. You're a Liverpool fan. You demanded that we talk about Liverpool today, Robert. I don't know why. What that's all about. But we are. Will we be breaking down, say, the USL Championship every week? Probably not in a granular way. But I definitely want to talk about that league. I want to talk about the big stories in that league. I want to tell the stories of players that people aren't aware of. Again, to Robert's point about getting to know your district, there are lots of clubs in a league like the USL Championship or USL League One, for that matter, that are not big metropolitan cities that people just don't know what the soccer scene is like. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to bring that stuff to the fore here and shine a light on it.
Yeah, Neil, if you are a fan of, or you were living in a town that doesn't have MLS team, I mean, I come from a background in the USL League Two, the pre-professional world, and there's, countless teams in small towns that are hungry for more soccer than they have right now. So I think that all ties in together too. Even since the talk of the USL Division One, I've heard more murmurings from my little pocket of the soccer world about, what does this mean for, entrance into League One from teams in USL League Two. So, I mean, if we'll see how it all plays out, but it in its own right is being a disruptor of a news story, because it's, thrown a little bit of a bomb into the works, and people are thinking there's more possibilities within the American soccer landscape.
Yeah, okay. Look, we're going to try everything we can to tell stories about American soccer that aren't otherwise being told. That's how I'll say that. Maybe it's about smaller towns, smaller markets. Maybe it's about teams that aren't playing in the top division. We're going to do that. We're going to work on that here on Morning Kickaround.
One last plug before we get into today's long balls. You can throw some change at us, or even maybe schedule a regular donation. Ko-Fi or Ko-fi.com/Morning Kickaround. Anything you can donate, we're very grateful for, and anything that we're able to, especially if it's a reoccurring thing, we can then plan to build out some of our segments and throw more in there and help us stabilize, expand this operation we call Morning Kickaround. All right, you ready for some soccer now?
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Monday's long balls coming up here on Morning Kickaround. All right, long balls. This is the headlines for February 24th, 2025. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Is the Premier League race over? Some are saying that with Liverpool's dominant Oh, 2-0 win over Manchester City, growing the lead over the reigning champions to 20 points.
It's not.
And Mo
It's not
Salah.
about City. It's not about City. And Liverpool was supposed to beat City. In this moment, Liverpool was supposed to beat City. I don't
And
know
they
what
did it.
other circumstances might have been at play, but Liverpool was supposed to beat City, and they beat City. The problem here, if you are a neutral and wanted to see a fight to the finish and maybe a battle for the Premier League title, is that Arsenal bottled it.
Yeah,
Arsenal
I got to say,
at
West
home.
Ham.
They
salute.
bottled it. Yeah, absolutely. Liverpool should be shipping champagne to the Olympic Stadium and West Ham United.
I knew that Graham Potter guy was the chosen one for a reason, right? And he's the white knight for English coaches, and he came through bigly.
I will say this, sort of in defense of Arsenal. Now, from a organizational perspective, like from a back office perspective, they bottled it. They screwed it up. They didn't do what they needed to do to keep that team in the race by doing what was necessary in January and spending some money and getting the pieces in, right? And then Gabriel Jesus goes down, and Kai Havertz tears his hamstring on warm weather training in the UAE or whatever it was.
Unlucky.
Yes, that is unlucky. But every team deals with injury. Every team deals with attrition through a long season. And if you are not willing to be ambitious enough to cover for those losses when they happen, you are going to suffer what Arsenal has suffered. Give Mikel Arteta as much credit as you feel appropriate, because he kept them in it, right? He kept them fighting despite some of the problems they had in their team. Again, the lack of depth in certain areas of the team. They navigated a couple of difficult periods. Martin Odegaard went down. They were okay through that period. They found ways to win. Set pieces were a major part of the story for Arsenal, but the margin for error was extremely small for Arsenal Football Club this season. And Liverpool has been good enough and ruthless enough, even when they've had a blip, it's been momentary. That, one win for them, again, against a City team that is not what they once were, and therefore, on paper, it looks like if you just kind of looked at it, goes, oh, Liverpool beats City, and Arsenal loses to West Ham, you would go, oh, that's such a great win for Liverpool. Again, I don't want to put a lot into that, but there's nobody else. Right? If it's not Arsenal, there's nobody else. There's nobody else good enough. Liverpool is benefiting from being very good this season and very ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And being slightly better defensively than they were under Jurgen Klopp, because Arne Slot solidified those things. And the fact that there isn't another very, very good team in the league. That's it. That's the story.
Yeah, keep on looking at the table. I do a lot of at the FOP mob, staring at the table and trying to play out all the different possibilities of, where this could go. And I remember looking, what possibilities could we have to make it to the top? And now this year, as being the front runner throughout the season, Liverpool, I'm trying to find all the different scenarios that play out. And at the beginning of the week, there was some nerves, Liverpool, drew with Aston Villa. Would Arsenal catch up and, make it, 5 points or something like that? And, it would have been a very nervous Sunday had that been the case. But then, the team that's supposed to be the number one pursuant, challenger, and thorn in the side did not, follow through on their side of this. But I do want to say the part that I wanted, you were saying that I was insisting upon this topic today. I do want to say after yesterday, Liverpool win, they played they kind of changed their tactics and almost played like an Atletico Madrid sort of a tactic against Manchester City, soaked up the pressure, and then sent Salah, who you got to say has to be, front runner for this next Ballon d'Or, because he is MVP. If there's an MVP,
yes.
He exemplifies all of it, scoring, assisting his fullbacks.
None of that is okay. It's pertinent to the Ballon d'Or, but Mo Salah wins the Ballon d'Or if Liverpool win the Premier League title, but especially if they win the Champions League title. And if there's nobody else, if Madrid goes on to win, probably at this point it's too late for Kylian Mbappe to make up the ground, right? But if Real Madrid goes on and wins the Champions League title and Mbappe scores hat tricks all the way through, there will be at least a race. But I will say it's sort of like Liverpool in the Premier League, right? Liverpool's very good, and they
Mhm.
deserve all the credit that they're getting,
Yeah.
but there's not another very, very good team in the Premier League to push them, right?
No.
City's dropped off a cliff. Arsenal has problems with their squad. Chelsea's not ready. Nottingham Forest shouldn't be there. Okay, there's not another very good team in the Premier League to push
Tottenham
Liverpool.
and Manchester United are completely
There's
absent.
there's not another very good performance on the continent to push Mo Salah. He deserves it as of right now, and I think the inside track is Mo Salah's, absolutely. But if Jude Bellingham was closing in, like if he was pushing 20 goals this season, 20 and 10 or something, and Real Madrid was going to win La Liga and the Champions League, there would be a debate. There would be a conversation about whether or not Mo Salah could beat out Jude Bellingham. Right? There's a couple of things here, and obviously, last year it was a lot about what was going to happen in the summer, and whether or not winning something in the summer was going to push you to the Ballon d'Or the previous year. So, 2024. So I don't know. With 2025 not really being a summer of any major international tournaments, that probably works to Mo Salah's benefit as well.
Yeah, sure does. 11 points ahead with 11 games to go or so. We'll see if Liverpool march to that 20th First Division Championship. Long ball number 2 on Monday, February 24th. United States women's national team do it again. A 2-1 win over Australia in the She Believes Cup. And I got to say, Ali Sentnor, the emerging star of this She Believes tournament. I mean, an absolute cracker of a goal in the first game against Colombia. And then her contribution led to another really good goal against Australia. Great to see, there's already a stacked lineup in the player pool for United States women's national team. And Sentnor put her name in that top bucket for selection.
Yeah, I mean, what you're hoping for here in an quote unquote off year ahead of what's coming in a couple of years. I mean, this is all about preparing for 2027. Is that Emma Hayes is able to find players to help fill in behind those players who are maybe aging out. I don't think she's been perfect. I still don't understand why Corbin Albert is in this team consistently. I mean, I don't think anybody does for a couple of reasons, but if she was the best option in midfield or something, then maybe we could have a conversation about her continued inclusion, but she hasn't been.
Who's she been playing ahead of then?
Well, I mean, just in terms of you've got those veteran players, right? Is she pushing players out like Lindsay Heaps, formerly Lindsay Horan? Is she pushing those players out? Is that how Emma Hayes sees it? Or is this more of we're going to keep giving her opportunities because we think she can grow into it, and eventually Lindsay Heaps, formerly Lindsay Horan, is going to need to move on, or will need to move on from her. Right? And then, you have players who, Lily Johannes, who's maybe not quite there yet. She's not playing, in this context, she's not playing ahead of anybody in the sense that she's taken a starting job and made it her own. But I just think that, lots of people will wonder, do we really need her when there's a group that at the older level is still getting it done on some level, and then players like, I don't know, Sam Coffey's 26. She's been getting good looks under Emma Hayes. She continues to be an option. Yasmin Ryan played in this game as well. So, there are players in the pool, I guess, is the question. I don't want to make it just about Corbin Albert. I'm just saying that's one name that will jump off the page for people. But yeah, this is Jaden Shaw, Emma Sears starting in this game. Lynn Biondolo, formerly Lynn Williams, scores the opener. She's a veteran. She's a player we love to see continue to get an opportunity.
That was the most tap-in of tap-ins there.
Yes, right. But that's where she's supposed to be and how it's supposed to go when she's on the field, right? That's what you want from her. Yeah. I mean, look, it's the She Believes Cup. They have not played the best competition in the tournament yet. That comes next on Wednesday when they face off against Japan, who is also perfect so far and actually has done better than the United States in terms of goal difference through their 2 matches. So that's the challenge. And Emma Hayes last year and the Olympics was about doing it by any means necessary. No one thought that was the full plan being realized. No one thought that was how Emma would want to do it if she had had more time to build into that tournament. Now we're in a position where it's a building process. I don't think it's the end of the world if they lose to Japan, but I definitely think this is a test here that people are going to judge the progress towards 2027 on.
If people are trying to draw parallels, would you say that She Believes Cup is somewhat of a parallel to the January camp on the men's side for those uninitiated? Or is that a bit of a stretch?
It's more than that. It's definitely more than that. The January camp on the men's side is we don't even have any of our best options available to call in. That's not the situation when it comes to the U.S. Women's National Team, the She Believes Cup. It can be a little bit of two things. It can be a little bit of we want to put forth good performances. We want to win the thing. It matters to us. It's a tournament run by U.S. Soccer. I mean, it has value in that. You don't want to lose out on your own tournament on home soil. Right, there are not a lot of excuses for that when you're the U.S. Women's National Team. I don't care if you believe some of the world has caught up and passed the U.S. by or not. You're on home soil and you're against Colombia. You're against Colombia, Australia, and Japan. You have every reason to believe you should win that tournament. So there's that pressure, but there's also an opportunity here not to be so locked in on winning it that you're only turning towards the veterans who have already been there, that you can continue to blood new players and give them a look.
Long ball number 3 here on Monday, February 24th, and it was a bad weekend for penalties in Italy. Nothing lasts forever, Jason. You've heard that saying, I'm sure.
Yes.
Christian Pulisic, his streak of never missing a penalty, it's over. He missed, and it cost his team.
Yeah, I mean, it was a save. I always get kind of like.
Are you getting touchy on this? This is your language. They're parsing it here.
I'm asking because when we say miss, I think people perceive that to be he missed the goal. He just flat out didn't put it on target. That's not what happened here, right? This is one of those where maybe he didn't take a great penalty. Like that's, he tends to pick good spots and he tends to hit the ball hard, which I will always argue is the best approach. But the goalkeeper got down. He got down. Is it in the corner enough? Should we be picky about that? Should he have roofed it? Should he have tried to go top corner instead of bottom corner? Those things are there for criticism, but he didn't miss it. He just had it saved. And, the odds are that eventually that's going to happen. Nobody's perfect. Now, the problem is, of course, that not only did he miss or have a penalty kick saved, they lost the game. And this is a moment for AC Milan it's getting a little tricky. Like it's getting a little dicey for Milan, for Conceição, for Christian Pulisic. It's never good, regardless of the outcome of the discussion. It's never good when player and manager have to go into the media to say there's nothing going on here. We're all good. Everybody's fine. Whatever you've read, whatever tabloid story is out there, none of that is true. Like, even if that's the real story,
yeah,
just by virtue of having to go and defend the situation, those are cracks. Like, those are cracks. Pulisic may not have a direct problem with Conceição. Conceição may continue to play Christian Pulisic, but there are issues at Milan. And it largely because they're in 7th place, and they're not supposed to be in 7th place, and nobody is ever going to be comfortable at Milan with that team in 7th place, much less Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's the guy in charge and on whom all of this falls. You think he's thrilled?
No, he can't be. I mean, 7th place, and if you look at the gap now in the Italian league till 4th place. So Juventus in 4th, the last Champions League spot, 49 points. And Milan, granted, there's a game short, but they're 7 points behind. I guess that could narrow to 4, but it is starting to get a thinner and thinner thread of that. When you picture the reality of them gaining that ground, are they really going to outperform Juventus at Atalanta, who are their only ones with any kind of realistic touching distance? You can't really imagine that. I mean, granted, and those teams crashed out of the Champions Leagues as well, so they all have the kind of the same amount of games coming up. So it is getting a little bit bleak. And then I always feel like we're being gaslighted. Are we being paranoid that his minutes are going down? Is this good coaching for, keeping him fresh through the games coming up? Or, I know American soccer fans, the ones especially who look down the road at Americans, are they going to get, benched because they brought in attacking players? But at the same time, since the attacking players came in, his minutes have gone down.
No. His minutes have not gone down. What do you mean his minutes have gone down?
In the Champions League, the new arrivals played more minutes than he did.
He was rested at various points after having played a ton of minutes. I don't buy any narrative that Pulisic's not a starter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying both sides. Are we being gaslit that he's just getting his minutes stretched out for balance, or is he working his way towards the bench?
Us? Who's doing the gaslight? I'm very confused by
our own perceptions of
we're gaslighting
American
ourselves.
Yeah. Or, as American fans, is
I feel like you're gaslighting yourself to believe that there's a problem when I don't think there's a problem with Pulisic. The problem is that Conceição has installed João Felix as the 10, and that is not working. I think the problem is that they went out and they got João Felix, and João Felix is this pretty passer, and he's got technical ability, but what he doesn't do is deliver end product. And he is an incredibly frustrating footballer, and you have added an incredibly frustrating footballer in a spot where Pulisic had been effective before. I don't think Pulisic's minutes are going to be a problem, but his position, and I would argue that he is going to suffer, or the team is going to suffer, from Conceição leaning on Felix in a place where Felix has not been effective so far. In limited, we have limited information to go on. It's a small sample size. But Rafael Leao is one of the most frustrating players on the planet. Pulled at halftime, by the way, in this game against Torino. João Felix, again, he has all of the abilities, but he never delivers on them. I can't remember where I saw this quote. Somebody put it up on socials, and I'm just retaining it. Something about he's almost as frustrating as he is pretty to look at. Like he is, but because he doesn't, he looks the part, but doesn't actually deliver. Pulisic is going to play. If he plays on the right side, where he initially found success for Milan, it's not the end of the world, right? Obviously, the results need to be there for everybody to be thrilled. And there's always a chance that Conceição, when he gets desperate, may change things up, and that could lead to problems for Pulisic. But I don't know. I mean, Gabriel Marcotti wrote so maybe this is what you're talking about. Gabriel Marcotti wrote a piece about how Pulisic has to prove himself again. Look, every time a new manager comes into a club, especially one with ambitions like AC Milan, you have to prove yourself to a manager. It doesn't matter if you are João Felix or Rafael Leao or Christian Pulisic or Santi Jimenez or Tijani Reinders. It doesn't matter. They're all going to have to prove themselves. Yunus Musa, another American who's been getting significant minutes. I think this is a wider issue with Milan than it is about Christian Pulisic, who is not the problem there.
I hate to spring this on you, but you're talking about João Felix made me think of who's on your all-time overhyped Mount Rushmore. Because I was going to say João Felix and Gio Reyna are my easy top 2 picks.
I don't know that Gio Reyna measures up historically globally, but
within our bubble.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I would say that he is there. Man, overhyped. I'd have to do a little bit of a think on this.
Maybe Chad can help us out. Overhyped player. Mount Rushmore guys.
Up until maybe this season, Ousmane Dembele was in that conversation, but he's having enough of an impact at PSG that maybe he's putting to lie that concern. There've been. I mean, look. At various points, Antoine Griezmann wasn't the player people thought that he was, and then he became that player. So who knows?
There's another winger that was on PSG for a long time. He's on Munich now. That's only just coming good. Man. I feel like he's been on the biggest teams his entire career, but it's not until this year with Bayern that I feel like he is doing the thing. And I'm falling short.
It's not coming. It's not. You're not okay. You're not talking about Leroy Sané.
No.
You're talking about Leroy Sané. No. Okay. Who are you talking about?
Oh man, I'm looking up the
Kingsley Coman. You're talking about Kingsley
Coman.
Coman.
Yes. Thank you for pulling that. Jeopardy. Yeah. We got to get you on there.
Well, I didn't pull that off the top of my head. I did some quick research because I couldn't remember the name. But yes, Kingsley Coman is in that middle range of like upper level of the middle of world attacking winger, type players. Like you would take him on most teams, but if he's at Bayern Munich or he's at PSG or he's at, that you have to deliver at a higher level or you're not good enough. Right? I mean, look at the story of Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford burst on the scene, had some good seasons, made it into the England national team, looked like he was on a path to have one of those all-time great careers. And then everything came crashing down on him. And now, look, he's still obviously a good player because you're seeing the impact he's having at Villa. But he hasn't leveled up consistently through his career to what he was supposed to be.
I'll end this on a rhetorical one. This one could be chat exclusive, but bringing up that player is Mount Rushmore for players who've improved since leaving Manchester United.
Yeah.
But we'll save that for another day. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hit subscribe. We are on the march to 1,000. We are talking about what are we going to do to reward you guys once we get to 1,000. We're just, 50, 60 away from hitting the 4 digits. So I'll be the next to do so. And then hit up like 55 to 60 of your best friends and tell them to do the same.
Or one. Look, no pressure. Pick one friend. Tell that one friend to subscribe. If enough of you do it, we'll get there.
The next biggest thing, Ko-Fi.com/morningkickaround. What is that? That's a way for you to fiscally support the show. We talked about subscription, and we're also talking about maybe just a coffee. You can do a $5 donation, or maybe you could make a bigger or a reoccurring donation. Ko-Fi.com/morningkickaround, and then social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. The numbers have been ticking up pretty good on the Blue Sky. That's been great to see. And then, I'll do my best to get more posts and more active on X and Instagram, or write us an old-fashioned note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Hit us up, sponsorships, get to know your districts, and maybe if you're a soccer disruptor, reach out for that segment as well. We'll take a breath and come right back. We'll talk some MLS opening weekend on today's Hot Topic on Morning. Monday, February 24th, 2025, the Monday after the opening weekend of Major League Soccer's 30th season of competition. I'm Robert. He's Jason. What were the big takeaways for this weekend? I mean, it was a smorgasbord of soccer. There's 30 teams in the league now, lots of games to dissect, lots of big moments. If you were to pick a couple, what would they be, Mr. Davis?
Well, I was going to let you start, Robert. You would keep talking about how much soccer you were consuming, and you got very excited when we were planning the show to talk about particularly the games that kicked off, I believe, 8:30 Eastern time. So that would have been the Central Time Zone games, I think is how you think about that. And I know that there is a particular team you have a connection to that made an impression. Maybe not a great one initially.
So I spent a many years in Chicago, and when the first team I covered, MLS team I covered at any length was Chicago Fire, and I've always kind of kept a sideways eye on them, checked their progress, and it's been pretty bleak. I think most will admit, but their opening weekend game in Columbus certainly was entertaining. It always hasn't been like that, or hasn't recently been exciting for Chicago Fire.
Look at the old badge.
There you go.
Pull this off the rack. Look at the old badge there.
If Peter Wilt is tuned in again, there you go. He prefers that one, I'm sure.
Do you know why it says 12, Robert? Why it says 12 right here?
2012?
2012. This shirt is from 2012. That's how old that shirt is.
I hate to date myself, but that's like peak life right there.
Things were going. I won't say good for me, but things were going. All right. So the Fire make an impression. Okay. Tell me your takeaways.
All right. So there was a lot of exciting players, and there was a lot of exciting moments, but I got to say Chicago Fire, they didn't win. They lost 2-4 in Columbus Crew on their opening weekend, but Jonathan Bamba, new acquisition coming in from Celta Vigo, linked up really well with your young homegrown midfielder, scored 2 goals in the first half that were probably more fun than most Fire fans have had in a very I'm, we won't talk about the embarrassing moments that will probably scar your psyche forever with the
You
own
have to.
goal and
You have
the
to.
the pass to the opponent within your own 18-yard box. I mean, we'll compartmentalize that for now, but rejoice in Jonathan Bamba. May he be healthy and as exciting as he was on opening weekend for you Fire fans.
I have been waiting, I think, for Brian Gutierrez to level up for a while, and it's partly the problem has been that he's been on not good teams, and so it's hard for Brian Gutierrez to stand out when he's on not good teams in Chicago. And I think maybe this is the year. If Greg's got something cooking, and if they don't make those mistakes at the back that you talked about, the gifted Columbus goals, maybe Brian Gutierrez at 21 years old is ready for his moment in the sun. And, whether that means eventually some national team looks or just, maybe a move abroad or something. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. And obviously for Fire fans, what they want to see is Brian Gutierrez be the key to a playoff season, in Chicago.
That opening, I think 30, 45 minutes between Jonathan Bamba and Brian Gutierrez was probably more chemistry than Xherdan Shaqiri had with any of his teammates in his 2+ years. And I'm a big Shaqiri fan, but he was not what the Chicago Fire needed. And it was good to see. I mean, the result, there was some stuff where you're probably thinking about putting a paper bag over your face, but at least Jonathan Bamba looks like an exciting player, that counterattack threat. So if you're pinned back a lot this season, you have an outlet that you haven't had. It's possibly exciting times in Chicago if they clean up the mess at the back.
I will point out, so wild. Xherdan Shaqiri left Chicago after a disastrous stint, went back to Switzerland, and is playing there in Switzerland at Basel, and has already scored 10 goals in all comps in Switzerland, which is just, I mean, come on. Now,
what's worse than a Martial? I mean, come on.
All right. So I will move us on here. I will talk about the expansion team, the San Diego FC, first ever game against the defending MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy. Now, this is a different Galaxy than we saw win the title last year. I mean, obviously Ricky Puig is not there, but Joseph Pancil is out injured. They obviously had to sell Dejan Joveljic. Lots of changes in Los Angeles that maybe they weren't thrilled about undertaking. But give San Diego credit. I mean, they were conservative for the most part, as you would expect a new expansion team to be. But Anders Dreyer, another one of those goals coming from a mistake, another mistake at the back, which was a theme from the MLS weekend.
The whole weekend.
Lots of managers were like, what we're going to do? We're going to play out of the back, guys. We're going to stick to our philosophy. We're going to play out of the back. And then it's like, oh, it's the first game of the season and everybody's still rusty and nobody really knows how to do this. We're just going to give up goals. So Dreyer benefited from one of those from the Galaxy, but it's still a big moment for San Diego. To win a game, right? There have been expansion teams that have had to wait a long time before they won their first game in this league, and San Diego did not have to, and they did it in the home of a potential rival, depending on how things develop in Southern California.
From your view, did that result seem like something they could replicate, or was it just could that have been a blip because they were gifted a little bit?
I mean, I think there are reasons for hope that they will be competitive. I did pick them to finish last. I'm just going on history, right? I'm just going on how hard it is as an expansion team in Major League Soccer to find joy. But I think there's reason for hope if you're a San Diego fan. I mean, their structure is good. They were opportunistic, which you definitely need to be. The margins are small in MLS. So if you can take advantage of a couple of mistakes, maybe make set pieces work for you, you will win enough games to be competitive.
My second takeaway of the MLS opening weekend, the 8:30 window in general was really good fun watching on MLS 360, but I had to chisel it down. What the key takeaways? Atlanta, the Benz is totally back. I mean, we saw this with that late season playoff run that they had, the excitement, the volume there, and there was just so much to enjoy with that. The new signings of Latte Lath, the new coach pushing the right buttons, and the volume was just incredible. Seeing Almiron back, and he had a positive contribution. It seemed like the old times were back for the Five Stripes, and that was really exciting to see. There was fun little moments. I think someone's kid ran onto the field during anthems, and there was obviously the big celebrations. Their new signing gets 2 goals, and obviously there was a little bit of some good poaching, taking advantage of some bad Montreal defense, but I mean that pressure of that record-breaking transfer fee, that's off the shoulders right off the bat. That was a fun watch.
I mean, when you spend that much money on a player, when a player comes in with that kind of expectation, there is pressure to deliver. And if it's one of those things where if it doesn't happen right away, 1, 2, 3, 4 games in, it starts to become this psychological problem, and it's weighing on the player, it's weighing on the team. No issues for Latte Lath in that game to score goals, and not the goals he was hired or signed to score, right? That's not what you want. Any kind of goal you can get from him, of course, but my point is, when you look at his profile as a player, those aren't the goals that you're like, yeah, he's going to score a bunch of those. So those are almost like bonus goals. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Do you expect that guy to rise up and score a header on a set piece? He's not that guy. He's not that kind of center forward. Do you expect him to poach the way that he did on the other goal? I mean, he's supposed to be out in space, running with Miggy, making things happen like that. He's more of a Denis Bouanga kind of player than he is, say, I don't know, give me a good example, right? I was going to say Chris Wondolowski, but Wanda wasn't great with his head. I'm trying to think of a player who can do it. He's not supposed to be that kind of player. He's supposed to, so that's good. What I'm saying is, this is the kind of thing that you look at if you're an Atlanta fan and think, oh, we're getting that, and we still have the speed. We still have that weapon that he hasn't actually used yet in a big way. Watch out. Watch out Eastern Conference. Watch out Major League Soccer.
Latte Lath, I mean, his player type and then his pedigree of how prestigious of a scorer he was at the championship level. Yeah. And you have to score like every kind of goal in the championship. You have to get the scrappy ones and the pretty ones, and just the volume of games and the attritional nature of that league, I think, probably set him up pretty good for success. Do I sneak in my second in the 8:30 window, or do you want to have your final point of the day?
Well, I mean, it's Lionel Messi that you were going to talk about, so I think you have to mention Lionel Messi.
Inter Miami. Okay, so there was a lot of calamities. There was a lot of exciting stuff in the MLS opening weekend, but there was also many calamities. And Inter Miami, for most of that game, their performance was a bit of a calamity, but they scraped by and got themselves an opening day draw. Like it was messy. It was messy.
It doesn't help.
No pun intended.
It doesn't help when Tomas Aviles gets himself sent off.
Whew.
Right? That is just ridiculous from him. So you're going to wonder if there's going to be a reckoning. You know what I was struck by, Robert? I mean, obviously, okay, Messi playing a role in both goals to save Miami when they really probably had no business winning that game. Mm-mm. I also was struck by how emotional Mascherano was. Like, just how into it he was and how crazy he went when Miami got the equalizer. I think that was a sequence of events. It was like, oh, okay, we're not going to get like, I mean, look, he was an emotional player. I don't know what I would expect, but you remember Tata Martino. Tata was buttoned up. I mean, he's got the professorial thing.
He was a very professional guy.
He might have yelled a bit. I do remember, there's plenty of times Tata was screaming, referees, players, that kind of thing. But can you imagine, I mean, age difference is a factor here, but can you imagine Tata Martino like running down the sideline, double fist pumping the way that Mascherano was? I don't think so. It's so funny. It was something that struck me. I don't even know if I have an opinion about it. It's just something that struck me about the way this will go for Miami this season.
Well, Mascherano is pretty early in his coaching career. We've talked about that. I mean, just scant experience coming into this Inter Miami head coaching job. And, while he was, some may argue about his qualifications to get the job, that pressure is still there, no doubt. And he's going to have to get those results. So while, will we see him grow into this job? Is he going to get emotional and flame out because he's underprepared? Or are we going to see him, take those steps and become that, more polished and rounded coach as we perceive.
Well, that's interesting. Again, how much is Messi co-coaching this team? That's a thing, or Sergio Busquets for that matter, right? And Jordi Alba was among the ranks of mistake makers at the back with the gift.
Yeah, that's a red flag right there. I think if your core is making those mistakes, then
I mean, look, everybody's rusty, right? Everybody's rusty. I think it's fair to say that the Segovia goal off the pass from Messi, beautiful things for Inter Miami. All right, I'm going to sneak one in. I know we have like very little time left in this segment, but I want to sneak one in just because it's important. FC Cincinnati gets a goal from Kevin Denke as they win their opener. I think they're going to be very good. Evander maybe wasn't quite there yet. Again, it's pretty recent that he's arrived. Maybe fitness is a thing. He did have one moment with a nutmeg that I think stood out for a lot of people. But again, Cincinnati is going to win a lot of 1-0 games. That's the kind of team that they are. They're built to do that. So and they don't even have, again, Lucas Orellano is not back. I don't believe they have the issue with Matt Miazga is still injured. So, there are some things that are still to come for Cincinnati, and I think that they can be encouraged by the way that they won that game.
If Atlanta hadn't have broken the record a couple weeks after, we'd be talking about Denke, the transfer record holder, getting the monkey off his back, so to speak.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, that couldn't have been a better debut for their big spend for FC Cincinnati. He looked just as bit as exciting as Jonathan Bamba did for the Fire. I mean, he scored a goal. He was kind of their everywhere guy, to be honest. Every time 360 cut to the Cincinnati game, he was in the mix of it, bringing balls down, spraying it, also finishing it. He really he has that energy and enthusiasm, throughout the long season. Cincinnati could be having a really fun 2025 season with him in the lineup.
Yep, absolutely. MLS,
all right,
it's underway.
Yeah, week 1 done, and we shall have many more exciting games. And how many more playing out of the back problems will we see before that rounds out, do you think?
Let's hope that those numbers, because the league's fun, entertaining, and there's some good soccer being played. Let's hope the number of when playing out of the back goes wrong starts to get smaller as we move forward.
We're on the march to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Morning Kickaround, YouTube. We are on the march to 1,000, and you could be the next, and then your people could be the very next to hit that button right after you. So do that, Morning Kickaround on YouTube.com. Follow us on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Get involved with the show. And then if you want to help out financially, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. One-time or regularly scheduled donations. Anything will help expand and stabilize this program. All right, take a quick breath, come back with today's big question, talking the structure of American soccer here on Morning Kickaround. Big question here on Monday, February 24th, 2025. We want to return to the conversation that was started on Friday with American soccer entrepreneur Peter Wilt. And he brought up a fascinating question we want to dig into a little bit more. The big question here today, does the USL's plan for the Division I League go far enough regarding territorial rights? And Peter said they're essentially selling monopolies if it's just, per city. Where could we go with this? Is this, do we agree fully that that's the case?
Let's listen to what Peter said to set this up, because we do have the clip from our conversation with Peter last week about because he brought this up without us prompting him.
Some great feedback coming in here, but maybe I'm missing it, but I have not seen anyone that's looked at the USL announcement and the USL vision and said, wait a minute, they're still not addressing territorial exclusivity, right?
Okay.
They're still selling monopolies and allowing one team per market. And that's not a true open system. I mean, the beauty of the sport in the rest of the world is that you derive the competition by having multiple teams in the same market.
So that was Peter Wilt. again, we were talking about some of the things that have come up. Peter has started a number of American soccer teams and certainly knows the landscape. He wrote a manifesto on promotion and relegation in America. It's out there if you want to go find it. I don't know if Peter has like a link somewhere in his social media bios, but you can find Peter Wilt talking about promotion and relegation or writing about promotion and relegation. And this is an interesting thing, right? Because we go back to the announcement from USL that they want to launch a D1 league. And we all took that as, okay, wow, this is really interesting. What could this mean? Are they in competition with MLS? Now, they've been pretty clear, and the messaging has largely come from Paul McDonough, the president of USL. But they've been pretty clear that they don't intend to directly compete with MLS. It's more like, a disruption play, a differentiation play. Hey, look, we can be another D1 league that can service smaller markets that don't have MLS, markets that can't seem to break into MLS, markets that can't attract a billionaire owner because of the numbers required to buy into Major League Soccer. We can be different. Now, we talked PLS, and they have to meet all the PLS standards, and all those things are still out there. And then we got to that, okay, what about promotion and relegation? Does this indicate that they intend to move in that direction? I'm going to pull in something here from Travis from the chat. On CBS, the president of USL said, Pro-Rel is coming after they establish a D1 league. Do you buy it? Perhaps you've already addressed this morning, just tuning in. So we have not addressed it yet. This is Paul McDonough talking over on CBS Sports Golazo with Jimmy Conrad and Charlie Davies.
Mm-hmm. He says the words. He says the words.
Yeah. First of all, hi, Paul. We'd love to talk to you directly. I know we're not Golazo, but we're here. I've talked to Paul McDonough in USL plenty of times. I got an email out. Let's just say that. I got an email out wondering if maybe we can have a chat with Paul McDonough. He says the words. You're right. He says the words. I expressed my cynicism about this last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we started talking about it, that USL has long sort of fainted in the direction of Pro-Rel. They brought it up. Now, what they do is the league office, like the league office brings up the idea of promotion and relegation. And, past presidents have brought up the idea of promotion and relegation. And those things are fine. You need to start somewhere, right? It's got to start somewhere. But what it fails to account for when they talked about it publicly is that it's not really up to them, right? It's up to the owners. It's up to the people who have money invested in their clubs. Andy here saying too many owners aren't on board with Pro-Rel. Unless the media rights money increases massively, they can dangle that carrot for years. If the owners don't want it, it won't happen, right? Go ahead.
I was going to say the media rights and the difference of the money at the different levels. I have heard arguments for both sides, like making the carrot big enough for that Division I level, so all the teams are working their darndest to get up the table. But I've also heard the argument of don't have the differences between the levels of it. So if you get relegated, it isn't the devastating loss to go from 100 million,
right,
say, to 50. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, both sides, I could see both sides of the argument, and I'm not quite sure where to land on that just yet.
I've been distilling quite a lot of things recently about this, so I can't speak to the source on all of this. And my apologies to whoever was out there on social media, I believe, saying it. But there's certainly there's an argument, or there's a way to frame this as the differences in revenue and the money from the top level of a USL pyramid down to the bottom, or professional ranks at least, is small enough that you can't really say, well, the D1 owners will be so against promotion and relegation because if they get relegated, the money changes at the USL League One level. Well, certainly the money you spend on players changes. Whether you take a massive hit revenue-wise is a question. Of course, then if you're just talking about business, why would you want to be in the USL Championship and not League One if you're paying the players less but the revenue's the same? Unless it's just about, the prestige of being in the higher division. And there's something for that, right?
Yeah.
Now, this coming back to what Peter said, USL says, we're going to do Pro-Rel, or we have a plan to do Pro-Rel. We want to do Pro-Rel. Again, whether they can make that happen as to Andy's point, based on the owners buying in, is a question. But Peter is saying, like, number one, I've already called this not an open system. It's not. I mean, if it's within USL and it's not linking up with other leagues in America, it's not an open system. Of course, that's on MLS as well, who doesn't want to be involved in an open system. They don't want their clubs to be relegated. They don't want to have that issue. They want to control everything. If you're going to call it an open system within your structure. So USL, hey, we've got a D1 league now. USL Premier. Go watch our video on the name.
Yeah.
Somebody called me Jay Davies and called me a hater in our comments.
Jay Davies a hater?
They didn't like that I didn't like Premier. All right, USL Premier, USL Championship, USL League One. Let's just go with those three divisions now. That's an open professional system under the USL umbrella. Peter's saying if you are not going to open up territorial rights so that somebody can start a club in any market they want, regardless of that market is already occupied, it's not an open system, right? And I think there's a reasonable conversation to be had if the impact of that would be good or bad, right? Let's just take a reasonably successful USL championship team that has won a title, that has drawn fans, has flirted with MLS, Sacramento Republic. Sacramento Republic is a pretty successful USL championship team. And they're in a pretty sizable market for the league that they play in. Right? I think they're one of a couple of teams that would actually qualify on like all of the criteria for PLS or whatever. Yeah. They're building their stadium. If they get that off the ground, that's a thing. Would it be good for American soccer and for the USL if somebody said, you know what, I'm going to get some guys together or I'm going to put some community money together and we're going to launch a team in Sacramento, and we're going to enter at the bottom end of the USL pyramid, the open system. Now, nobody said if USL intends to link this to their amateur leagues. And obviously, what you're talking about, USL League 2, you're talking about college players, so probably not. So if you're launching a team in an open market, in an open pyramid system, and you want to go and say, go to Sacramento, or on the other side of town, by the way, didn't Peter say he has a women's team that's playing in that area?
Yeah,
he was wearing the gear. If you launch that team, is USL going to let you buy in at the USL League One level for whatever that fee is, and then work your way up to D1? Would they be okay with it? And again, what if that undercuts Sacramento Republic? If now you are pulling dollars away, whether that's people buying tickets, people buying gear, corporate sponsorship, attention in town, because how much oxygen actually is there to get the promotion you need? I mean, is that good?
It's another chicken or the egg sort of a question. Is the fervor for soccer so dense that it's localized to where, say, wherever Sacramento Republic is on one side of the town, and then the new group or club is started on a different part of town? Is soccer? I think it depends on the individuals and the region that you're in. It seems like what's appropriate. So maybe that might be annoying. So this hypothetical for Sacramento Republic, and then maybe there's a subsect of people that feel like that club isn't representing them. Hypothetically, sure, I mean, you shouldn't be, the rules shouldn't dictate that another team that feels they want to do things a different way shouldn't be allowed just because of overarching rules, while Sacramento Republic might be annoyed by that, and they might even force them to extend their hand to incorporate that other group somehow as well.
This is, again, sort of like inherent in the argument of a promotion and relegation in the first place, which is a lot of people will say, you need that. You need the threat of relegation to spur actual investment,
and the threat of competition too, I guess. Then,
sure.
I mean, would Sacramento Republic have to work harder to then be everything for their city?
Now, in a case like Sacramento Republic, I would have no concerns about that club folding up shop because they've been threatened by another team in the market. I think Sacramento Republic could be fine. Now, again, whether that means like, we're not bringing in as much money and we can't pay the right players, and now we get relegated, and now that's a problem, I don't know. But again, American soccer history is littered with dead clubs. And I think it's natural to fear that anything that could potentially hurt a club's bottom line could potentially see the end of that club. Now, there have been lots of other reasons that clubs have died that have nothing to do with competition within their market from another soccer team. Sometimes it's the lease goes bad, or it's the owner was never really committed in the first place, or whatever it might be.
What was the number that Peter said on Friday? 180 clubs or something like that have gone down since the PLS started?
Yes, right. And so the argument about PLS is they're not doing enough to protect clubs from dying anyway. Why even bother with them? If we're just going to have dead clubs on top of dead clubs, then open it up and see if that creates a different scenario, whether the results might be different in that regard. And I suppose that would be the argument about a truly sort of open system within USL that allows new clubs to pop up in places where there already are clubs. That, protectionist kind of policy is tricky to begin with. I mean, economically, and we're dealing with it as a country right now, right? We're dealing with this as a country. The idea of should we do what we can to protect our business interests within our own country, or should we do more to promote competition by, opening up the market and the free market? And, I don't love, there's a principle here thing, and then there's a reality thing. And the principle thing, it seems pretty clear. There shouldn't be a reason, right? Again, if 5 guys from Detroit want to get together and launch a team, they shouldn't have to go. Again, Peter would like the PLS to end that high net worth individual element, so that people like the guys in Detroit can launch their team, go professional, not have to worry about selling out to somebody else or bringing on a silent partner or somebody who could have control over the club because we just own this together. That would be nice. That's one thing. That's a principal thing. The other principal thing is, again, the marketplace. And why should I have to go look for another market or go find a millionaire in some other town to launch a team when I could launch one right here? Now, I might still have to check a bunch of boxes when it comes to stadium and infrastructure and bonds and those kind of things. But why shouldn't I be able to do that? And obviously, this does not address, when Peter brings it up, it's about USL. This does not address any territorial issues that might exist between leagues, right? MLS has their territories, right? MLS is not going to launch a team in, I'm trying to come up with a good example. They're probably not going to launch a team in San Francisco, right? Because there's a team in San Jose. And because the owners of the Quakes would say, wait a second, that's not cool. You're infringing on my territory, and this will hurt my business. And MLS will think, okay, well, within the structure of our business, with our investor, the owner of the San Jose Earthquakes, we don't want to undercut them. We're not going to let another MLS team launch in San Francisco, right? But if the USL launches a team in San Francisco, MLS can't say anything about that. So should US Soccer have any role in this? Now, if you're on the USL side or the lower division side or the anti-MLS side, you're not going to want US Soccer to step in and say, no, you can't put a team in that market because there's already an MLS team there, because that feels like it's advantaging the big boys, the team, the group that already has the money and the power, and then it's bullying everybody around. But if you're on the other side of this, you're like, wait a second, MLS, What do you, where there's already teams here. Why are we doing this thing where we are cannibalizing each other, which is, does have history in in American soccer rather. Yep. Why should anybody be allowed to cannibalize any marketplace? But US Soccer doesn't have any real standing here to dictate that part of how soccer operates. They're already on shaky ground with PLS, which we talked about. Right? The NASL didn't win their lawsuit, but it wasn't because PLS is fundamentally wrong or anti-competitive. I think there are lots of arguments that it is. It's because they didn't prove that they weren't also incompetent, and that really worked against them. So when we talk about what U.S. Soccer can and cannot do, can U.S. Soccer really come in and tell any business, and MLS is a business, and USL is a business, and NISA is a business, and say, you can't do that thing? Because there's already a team from another league, another business. You're not going to tell, and I know that the anti-MLS crowd will love this, right? But all these teams are franchises on some level. If there's a bunch of McDonald's in a town, there's no restaurant authority that can say you can't start a Burger King in that town. There's already a bunch of McDonald's. That's not allowed. That's a McDonald's market. You can't put a Burger King there. Of course, no one could say that. That's not how any of this works.
That is not how America works at all. Keep your comments coming in here about this topic. Want to hear everyone's input because it is an interesting time for, thinking about the structure of the American soccer landscape. USL really has, perked our interest and curiosity of what is possible and what their plans are really moving forward. You can write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. If you've got something a little bit more thoughtful than just something in the comment section, feel free to reach out. If you want to talk about your soccer district or nominate someone to talk about your soccer district, reach out and write us an email. If you're a disruptor, you have a contrary opinion, a different way to go about this, write us a note. We'd love to hear all the different
If you want to talk about
takes.
territories or franchises or PLS or any of those things, please reach out.
Yep. And then once you reach out, also hit the subscribe button. It's maybe even easier. Click that button. We are in the 900s, on our way to 1,000. We'll have to do something special. Hitting the 4 figures will be a great benchmark for the program. So be involved to be the next one to do so. And then if you have a little bit of money you'd like to throw at the show, keep us or make us a sustainable program. We've got getting our feet under us, and now we're on the move to become a sustainable program. One way to do that, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. $5 or a little bit more or something regular go a long way. So we'll be back on Wednesday, it looks like, and plenty of soccer to take in from now until then. So until next time, thank you for tuning into Morning Kickaround, and enjoy your soccer.